Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Thursday, September 21st, 2023. In this update, we are keeping an eye on subtropical or potential subtropical storm 16. This could become our next named storm, Philia. And then we also have another area to watch just to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands off of Africa. This could also become our next named storm. So a lot to talk about in today's update. Now, a big disclaimer is that all of my videos and live streams are for entertainment purposes only and to discuss raw operational model guidance and its ensembles. I'm also comparing models, so please seek official sources like the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, or the Weather Channel for more detailed and accurate information. So looking at the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, and we have two areas that could be threatening thousands of people. The first one we are going to be talking about is potential tropical cyclone 16. And this has winds now of 35 miles an hour, pressures down to 1,012, and it is moving to the north at 8 miles an hour. Formation chance on this is 60%, and this is not declared a tropical cyclone by any means just yet. This is a PTC, in other words, that the NHC uses if we are going to get any tropical development out of this. They're basically issuing advisories before it actually becomes a tropical storm. Then, of course, we're going to be talking about this disturbance down here. This has an 80% chance of tropical formation in the next 7 days, and this has a medium chance in the next couple of days that is 40%, and this could be threatening the Leeward Islands by that time frame. So a lot to get through in today's video, while Nigel up here is moving out to sea. In fact, if we look at that, you can see it's gonna get absorbed into an extratropical cyclone, or more of a polar type vortex up here, roughly in the high latitudes. So now, with that being said, let's take a look at our whole imagery here, looking at the entire Atlantic basin. Again, what we talked about is we're going to focus in on subtropical storm Philia. Potentially, this could get named in the next 24 or so hours as this moves northward, and then we're going to be focusing on our next disturbance that is coming off of Africa to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. So looking at the latest imagery, this is a close and zoomed in view on basically on PTC-Sixteen, and we can see this does have frontal features. You can see a front right here. We have a bit of a diffused warm front right here. We have a little bit of an occlusion trying to take place, but the center looks to be forming right in here as it gets relocated with the deep convection. Now, there is going to be shear on this system, but due to baroclinic forcing, a lot of the dynamics that are going to come into play, there could be some significant strengthening with PTC-Sixteen as it goes to the north and eventually turns into, say, the Cape Hatteras area, maybe as well as Norfolk in Virginia. And again, lots of heavy rainfall is anticipated with this system. So now looking at the National Hurricane Center product page on PTC-Sixteen, and again, I'm going to go through as much detail as we can with this. There are tropical storm warnings issued for North Carolina, for Virginia, also for, that appears to be Maryland, under some sort of tropical storm warning. So again, this is going to be a big system by all means. We're expecting a lot of rainfall, very strong winds, big time storm surge out of this. This cannot be underestimated. Just because, oh, it's a PTC now doesn't mean it's going to become something. The NHC declares this for a specific reason when they are very confident that this could acquire some tropical characteristics. In fact, the black dot that you see right before landfall could be a tropical storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds. That is about 10 to 15 miles an hour shy of a hurricane, and this could make a run for that potentially. So we are not going to underestimate this. Sea surface temperatures in this area, 31 degrees Celsius. So upper 80s, potentially some low 90s. This could really take off pretty quickly, but the shear should prevent that. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. If there was no shear on this thing would really just have everything at it for it to really explode. So that's where it's at right now. Let's take a look. By the way, winds are at 35, moving to the north at 8 as of the 5 o'clock advisory. The new one is coming out here soon. So key messages for potential Tropical Cyclone 16. This is the second advisory. An area of low pressure is forecast to strengthen off the southeastern U.S. coast and bring tropical storm force winds, storm surge, heavy rainfall, and high surf to large portions of the southeast and mid-Atlantic United States coast beginning Friday and continuing into the weekend. There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge, inundation over portions of the eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, including the Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds. Sorry, I'm not in the Carolinas. I'm sorry about that. And lower Chesapeake Bay, where storm surge warnings are in place. Residents in these areas should follow advice given by local officials. Tropical storm conditions are expected within portions of the southeast and mid-Atlantic coasts, with a tropical storm warning now in effect beginning on Friday and continuing into Saturday. Heavy rainfall from this system will or could produce localized urban small stream flooding impacts across the eastern mid-Atlantic states from North Carolina to New Jersey Friday into Saturday. And just because this may not become a hurricane, do not underestimate. There's a lot of water being stored in the atmosphere with this, and this really could be a big deal. So the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds are as follows. Potentially Friday night into early Saturday morning if you're on the Pamlico Sound, as well as perhaps maybe even the Cape Hatteras area. That includes Saturday night across portions there of New Jersey. As well, actually, yeah, Saturday night into Sunday for New Jersey, for Delaware, for Maryland by Saturday night. So, and you're looking at a potential 20 to 40% chance of tropical storm force winds versus down here, there is a 60 to 70% chance potential of tropical storm force winds. So this is definitely on our radar right now. And I know some of you yesterday said I didn't cover that very well. Well, we did not expect it to really get this organized and explode this quickly, and it already is doing that. So we are now have our hands full on YouTube videos every day now, since we are monitoring 2 systems. Well, about to be 2 here in a few days or so. So rainfall totals over Wilmington, North Carolina, 2 to 4 inches. If you're in the orange, there is some dots there. That's 6 inches of rainfall. And then across New Jersey, the Northeast here, you got away with Lee. You're not going to get away with Philia when it gets named here. Salisbury, possibly 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Now, what I just said about the Northeast, yeah, some of you got the strong tropical storm force winds, but not much rain. This one's going to have a lot of rain along with the tropical storm force winds that are going to be quite intense. So you're just going to see about everything with the tropical storm here once this goes north, or it's going north now. It's going to continue to do that. Now, the longer this stays over the open waters and it takes its own sweet time, this could get organized even further than what is being illustrated on the NHC. There's a slight risk for heavy rainfall and flood concerns if you are on Salisbury, Washington, if you're in Philadelphia, if you are in the Richardson, if you are in Norfolk, Hatteras, Wilmington, slight risk there. A 15% chance for flooding. It will not surprise me if some of you all right along the coast here, let me actually use black. Actually, yeah, I'll use black. So right in here, there could be a possibility that they may go moderate risk in future outlooks. So definitely stay tuned on my YouTube channel for that, as this could bring a lot of rainfall. And I'll show you the rainfall totals on the NAM 3 kilometer in just a second. Storm surge is also going to be a big deal with this. I mean, we are talking 2 to 4 feet. Remember, Lee was only going to bring maybe 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. This is going to be a little bit more impactful. Lower Chesapeake Bay, 2 to 4 feet. If you're in the Pamlico, Ponago rivers, including their sounds, you can get maybe 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Now, the stronger this gets, The storm surge indicator here could go up even more. The next color up would be red, which would possibly be 6 to 9 feet or so. So therefore, NHC is being generous, but this really has some serious potential. So now, as we all want to see here, this is the storm surge map. This is a interactive map, by the way. You can find this on the NHC website. There will be a link in the description. So areas here in the darker red indicate storm surge warnings. So that means big time storm surge is anticipated over these areas. Now, the brighter pink colors indicate storm surge watches, which means there's a potential that you could see some big storm surge. But again, that's based on the current intensity and how strong this might get. If this becomes a hurricane, then storm surge warnings could be included here, as well as maybe up here just right off the coast there of Maryland. So definitely a lot to talk about and digest in this video with those storm surges. So now let's take a look at our tropical tidbits models. We want to forecast where this is headed next, and it is very important that we actually look at this. So going forward, this is in the next 24 hours. So this is by tomorrow. This is September the 22nd. By the way, tomorrow is the first day of fall. Yeah, first day of fall. And right now, doesn't feel like that for some locations with a tropical system moving onshore. Heavy rainfall is expected here, and this will arrive. In fact, yeah, you're going to start getting that by early tomorrow morning. It's going to get heavier, maybe some strong thunderstorms. We're going to have some instability with this system since it is somewhat of a cold core setup. You might see some, air mass type storms forming around this. This could make landfall near Wilmington at 982 millibars. So this, again, could be really strong. Now, on future or past model runs, you can see that this was kind of all over the place, So we'll see if the trends go stronger. This could get stronger than what the NAM 3-kilometer model indicates here, with a lot of that rainfall that is anticipated. In fact, if we do take a look at our rainfall forecast on PTC-Sixteen, you can see right in here quite a bit, potentially 5 to 8 inches of rainfall according to the NAM 3-kilometer model. But depending on which model you use, if we look at the GFS, more like 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. The European model, more like 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. And the Canadian model, not really, pretty much on the same page here, with 4 to 6 inches of precipitation in the form of rain. So again, that's going to be enough to cause a lot of flooding and a lot of problems down here across North Carolina and Virginia. Yeah, by the way, that is Norfolk there. Might see 8 or 9 inches if this comes to pass on this particular model. So quite a bit of rainfall is anticipated. Also, quite a bit of wind is in the forecast with this disturbance. Actually, let me use this since that is kind of glitched out. So going forward, we can see the core here. If I could, the sectors are not very good here on this website, but we can see once this makes landfall, winds could be at 60 miles an hour. That's what the NHC is forecasting. And then once this gets onshore, you're going to see winds that are quite strong. Wind gusts between 40 to 50 miles an hour. But once it's center, right before it moves onshore, some of these wind gusts here could be between 50 to 60 miles an hour, possibly even 70 miles an hour over Norfolk in Virginia. Those onshore winds coming in out of the east-northeasterly direction could really pile the storm surge up there. So definitely maybe some power outages out of this system, certainly a possibility. And when we look at the European model, also pretty aggressive, but a little further offshore with the winds here, showing you those wind gusts between 50 to 60 miles an hour. The GFS also pretty similar with the wind gusts, but not like the NAM 3-kilometer model. When we actually take a look at let's look at the halves A storm forecast on 16, which is PTC. You can see wind gusts there potentially between 50 to 60 miles an hour. Not really aggressive actually, but depending on what model you actually use will vary a whole lot. If we look at the H-Wharf model, let's take a look at that. This doesn't have wind gusts for many reasons. Actually, wait, yeah, this is a system. You can see sustained winds potentially 45 to 55 miles an hour, but right in the frontal boundary here, the diffused, could see sustained winds 55 to even 60 miles an hour. So that's a lot of detail that I covered on PTC-Sixteen. I hope that helped out a lot. We're now going to transition and talk about our next disturbance that is southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. This one, my guys, could be another big ace producer since it has a lot of water time to work with. The atmosphere, the background state could become pretty favorable. And right now, this has an 80% chance of formation. So when we look at this, showers and thunderstorms associated with a broad area of low pressure a couple of 100 miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands are beginning to show signs of organization. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for gradual development of this system, and a tropical depression is likely to form this weekend or early next week, while the system moves generally westward at 10 to 15 miles per hour across the eastern and central Atlantic. I mean, there's always something going on. When we have Nigel up here, that is now going to be off our radar in tomorrow's video. And then we have PTC-Sixteen that we really have to watch, followed by we also have to watch this disturbance coming off of Africa. This one, my guys, could be a big deal, especially if it moves further west. We will talk more about that when we look at the global models here in just a second. But when we take a look now at the Atlantic-wide satellite imagery, again, now that we talked about 16, check mark there. We briefly covered Nigel, check mark there. Now we have to kind of digest on what is going to go on with our disturbance coming off of Africa, just to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Here's a closer zoomed-in view on the system. This is as close as I can get right now, but you can see we do have a bit of a circulation. In fact, it looks to be almost closed at the moment. One could even argue this almost looks like a tropical depression with some of the deeper convection that is trying to organize. And right now, it is located somewhere right here is where we think it's going, and it is going to go perfectly due west. How far west will this go remains to be announced. Now, looking at the GFS, this is a global forecasting system. Let me actually, this is the one. There we go. So GFS model, we're looking at our precipitation forecast, and I'm going to do all I can to cover as much detail as I can on this disturbance, since yes, this is going to this could impact or make a close call approach to the Leeward Islands. So 54 hours out, again, we talked about this 16, that's up here in Virginia. Now we're watching this disturbance here headed towards the Leeward Islands. Let's go out to day 3. We can see maybe a tropical depression at this point, and then eventually could consolidate here when we zoom in a little closer, trying to become a powerful tropical storm. Now, as you all know, when you look at this model here, this is the 12Z model, by the way. In fact, do we have the 18Z out? I think we do. Yeah, we do. We are at 102 hours out, and this now shows the disturbance is a little slower, and it is further to the east, and it might make the turn a little sooner, which could be good news. But we cannot always rely on the last couple of model runs for that, since this could go back further west again. So looking at the GFS, this is 995 millibars. The last model run had it at 990. This is pretty much on par, but you can see in the last few frames, this is trying to head more towards the west-northwest at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So now, the reason why that could be a possibility is our weather pattern, of course, changes all the time. And when we look at the 500 millibar steering flow, there's our disturbance right here. We have a deep layer ridge that is oriented in such a way that it is north of the system right now. But the trophy-like weather, we have a subtropical storm or a PTC that is off the Florida coast that's going to keep the heights there lower, and it's going to set the edge to where this ridge is able to build. So when we go forward here on the 12Z run, you'll see that this ridge is pretty big, but it is also not really bulky in a way that we would see heights like this, you know, where we would have a very strong ridge over here where this is able to move further west and then kind of gain latitude thereafter. This ridge is kind of flattened, and the western portion of this is beginning to erode at 5 days out. And so when we go forward, you can see how that ridge begins to kind of erode, and the system is able to turn north. Now, you all are going to probably leave a comment in this video and say, oh, it's going to be a fish storm, David. Do not worry. Please don't worry. It's going to be a fish storm. That is a possibility. But there's also a possibility, as what the NHC here has. Look at, I mean, the red is really close to these islands. And imagining if you just drew an extra cone on this, this could get well into the Caribbean still. So we just don't know yet. And that's why the NHC is not going to shift this to the north yet. And there's other models beyond the GFS that we have in today's update that clearly illustrate the uncertainties in the forecast. The GFS has done pretty good though with Lee. It's doing pretty good now with possible Ophelia when it actually gets going. But that's a look at this particular model. We don't know what the 18Z is going to show yet since we're out to 114 hours out. But it looks like this is also making that turn to the northwest too, just like the last run. And it is further to the east versus the last run. But also, we may have another disturbance to watch behind it. And this could also get come in at a lower latitude and hit the islands. So maybe it's not this system necessarily, but it may be this system that we have to watch. So now looking at the European model forecast, let's go to our sectors and look at the Central Atlantic. We can see when we go forward in the next 72 hours, we have the system here. Okay, this would be for September 25th. This is September 26th. And the Euro and the GFS actually are pretty much on par. In fact, we go to that and look at the Euro, very, very similar outputs here. Only the Euro is a little slower. We shall wait. Is the GFS on to something versus the Euro? We don't know yet. But we know that we are probably going to have another long-tracked lived hurricane or tropical storm that will produce a lot of ace points this go around, since this is going to be here and it's going to go out to here. Big alleyway lately that has been very close to Bermuda over the last week, and the pattern doesn't seem to change very much in the next couple of weeks further out. So out to 180 hours out, this is the furthest that I'm going to go, and this is going north because we have a ridge here, we have another building ridge here, but the timing of this system is now too late, and now it's being squashed between the two, and so it's likely to move northward. Instead, if the system was down here and this ridge is able to build in, this would probably be able to move more west-northwest. So looking at the Canadian model, I always like showing you and comparing all the models. The Canadian has another bullish scenario, and this actually gets very close to the islands. You can see it right in here. You can't miss it at all. Very close, and that's why the NHC is not relying just on the Euro and the GFS, but probably looking at the Canadian model too. And even we have another model to back that up too that I'm about to show you. So out to about 180 hours out, this is much further west on the Canadian model versus the Euro and GFS models that have it more over here. And that is going to make a big difference on who gets impacted. And another system, like I said, going to try to develop in its heels. So the tropics are going to remain exceptionally busy for a while. So now looking at the Icon model, one of my favorite models that I also like to look at, we're going to zoom in again and show you. So this is out to 60 hours. So this is by Saturday night, Sunday early morning, September the 23rd and the 24th. Going forward, this is out to about day 5. So this is Tuesday morning, Tuesday early afternoon, September the 26th. Look how close that is. Much closer than, say, the GFS. And it does get much closer still. So we have two models that bring this a bit too close to the Leeward Islands, that this could go further west. Again, it is in its formative stage right now. So again, a lot can change between now and then. And, consistency is not always key. And we can see that here clearly. If we look at most of the models, yes, there has been a trend further to the west, or further to the east, I should say. But doesn't mean that it could shift all the way back again. That was 4 model runs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. that we looked at, and even five model runs ago, it still had it hitting potentially the central Leeward Islands, versus now it is offshore. It's all about the timing. When this thing consolidates, if it's later than earlier, it's going to have a big impact on the Leeward Islands. Okay, so, man, that was a lot of talking in this update. But anyways, I sure hope you all liked today's tropical weather outlook and discussion for Thursday, September 21st, 2023. I want to wish you all a happy early fall, because tomorrow is officially the first day of autumn at 11:50 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It'll be September the 23rd if you're on the East Coast, because of the way the time zones work. But I want to wish you all the best on celebrating the first day of fall. And we're only a few months away from tracking winter storms. But that's going to do it. Be sure you share, like, and subscribe if this video is very helpful, and also leave a comment in the section below this video. That's going to do it. Thank you all for watching.